Roll for Crit presents How to Play Merlin in 5 minutes or less or more. Merlin is the medieval game of knightly competition, designed by Stefan Feld and Michael Rieneck and published by Queen Games. Your goal in Merlin is to gain the most victory points in order to be crowned the successor to King Arthur's throne. You'll gain points by influencing principalities, building manors, and completing missions, among other things. Each player begins with a hand of 4 mission cards and their own castle board with various resources. A set of 4 henchmen, an apple token, some influence markers, 3 personal dice and 1 Merlin die, and 3 Merlin staff tokens. Each player also receives a few bonus resources and places their knight and an influence marker somewhere on the board according to their randomly assigned starting tile. 3 random trader tiles are placed above each player's castle as well. Traders steal points, but you can try to get rid of them before that happens. Of course, each player has a scoring marker which begins at the 0 space of the score track. The main board consists of 6 principalities, each with its own color and set of resources, flags, which provide unique actions, construction material for building manors, and shields to help fight off traitors. This tower holds influence counters, and there are tents for players' henchmen to visit. At the center of the board is the action rondel, where most of the game's action will occur. At the start of each round, players will take all 4 of their dice and roll them. If you end up with 3 or more dice showing the same result, then you must re-roll all of them until you have no more than 2 showing the same number. On your turn, you'll choose one of your dice to spend in order to move a figure on the rondel and take an action. If you spend one of your player dice, then you'll move your knight clockwise, a number of spaces equal to the spent die. Whichever space they land on indicates the action you can carry out that turn. Only you can move your knight, but all players are able to move Merlin by spending their white Merlin die. This works in the same way, except that Merlin can be moved either clockwise or counterclockwise, your choice. Each player has 3 Merlin staffs. If you spend one of those staffs after taking an action with Merlin, then you get to repeat that action for the turn a second time. If you were hoping for a number you didn't roll on your dice, you can also spend an apple to change one die to any other result. Once your action is finished, your spent die stays at the center of the rondel and can't be used again until the following round. Now let's go over what each action space on the rondel does. There are 6 principality spaces, each one matching a different principality. Landing on this action allows you to take one of your henchmen and place it onto the matching tent in the indicated principality. If your henchman was already in a different principality, move them to the new one. If someone else's henchman was in that spot, they get sent back to their owner's castle. Depending on which henchman you place, a different effect occurs from within that principality. A builder gets you 1 construction cube, a shield bearer gets you a shield, flag bearer gets you a flag, and the lady in waiting allows you to place an influence counter. Influence counters are important when it comes to the next type of action space, influence spaces. These spaces are marked with an influence symbol on the top and some other component type at the bottom. This action allows you to take the indicated component from any principality in which you have at least 1 influence counter, or to place a henchman there and carry out its ability. There's also the henchman relocation space, which allows you to move a henchman from one principality to either of the 2 directly adjacent to it, putting its ability into effect there after moving it. If all of your henchmen are on your castle board when taking this action, place one of them instead wherever you want. Victory point spaces award you with points depending on a specified component type. If the space shows a shield, flag, or construction material, you'll get 1 point for each of the specified component you have on your castle. For influence counters, you get 1 point for each influence you have in any section of the board. 2 spaces on the rondel hold special items, Excalibur and the Grail respectively. Taking the Excalibur action lets you take the sword from its space or from another player, then discard one of your traders. The Grail space lets you take the Grail plus 1 apple. And both Excalibur and the Grail will be useful again during scoring. If you're not happy with what's in your castle, you can visit an exchange space, which allows you to trade in any one of your flags, shields, or construction cubes for any one of those items from anywhere on the board. Next to the board, you'll see a randomly arranged series of hexes known as environs, with different terrain types. This is where you'll be building manors via the build space actions on the rondel. When you land on one of these spaces, you get to place one of your manors onto any vacant environ for the cost of 1 construction material cube. Which type of cube depends on the environ you chose. If you draw an imaginary straight line from that hex to the edge of the frame, it will point you to the color of construction material required. Most hexes can be connected to multiple material colors, in which case you get to choose which one to spend. After spending one of the indicated materials, place your manor in that space. If that space had a tower in it, you also get to activate a bonus effect, take a flag or shield, or place an influence counter in any principality. Back to the main board, the last action space type is the mission space. These correspond to your mission cards. Taking this action allows you to discard up to 2 cards from your hand, then take new ones in an amount equal to what you discarded, either from the top of the deck or from the face-up display of 3 cards next to the board. This display is replenished immediately each time a card is removed. Mission cards reward you with victory points, as shown here, for completing requirements, as shown here. For example, having specific flags or shields, or placing influence counters. If a mission card has the symbol of a blank component, that means it can relate to any of the 6 principalities. At the end of your turn, after taking an action, you can resolve one of your mission cards that you meet the requirements of, receiving the points and taking a new card right away, again from the deck or display. Don't forget, if you have any flags, you can activate them for special abilities during your turn. Some will allow you to manipulate the movement of your knight, take a different action from the one you landed on, or alter your dice results. The black flag lets you remove all traders of a certain type from your castle, and the gray one lets you complete 2 missions in the same turn for some bonus victory points. After using a flag, return it to the appropriate stack. Once all players have used all their dice, the round ends. Players retrieve their dice again and re-roll them to prepare for a new round. The player to the left of the start player will now become the new start player. At the end of the 2nd, 4th, and 6th game rounds, there will also be a scoring phase. Here's how players will receive their points. First, if you have any shields matching a traitor at your castle, you can spend that shield to get rid of them. Any traitors you can't get rid of, move your score marker back 3 spaces. If you manage to remove all of your traitors and you have Excalibur, you get 3 more points as a bonus. Then everyone gets 3 brand new traitors for the next round. Traitors with the same banner get stacked on top of each other, and each one requires a separate shield to get rid of. Next, take a look at the environs. Each set of connected hexes with the same terrain type is known as a territory. If you have the most manors in a territory, you get a number of points equal to the total number of hexes in that territory. If players are tied for most manors in a territory, the points are split between them equally, rounding down if necessary. After that, check the influence in each principality. The player with the most influence counters there receives points equal to the total number of influence counters of any color in that section. Again, tied players split the points total. After scoring influence, players take all but one of their influence counters back from each principality. Finally, you receive 1 extra point for each henchman you have on the board. During scoring, the player with the Grail can use it 1 time in order to break a tie in their favor, either for environs or influence. They can only use it once per scoring phase, but they'll keep it for the beginning of the next round. Again, scoring occurs 3 times per game, including at the very end, after 6 full rounds. After final scoring, you'll also get 1 point for each leftover apple, 2 points for each leftover staff, and 1 point for any combination of 3 shields, flags, or construction materials you still have on your board. You can also play Merlin with the King's Favor module. With this variant, each player has a board full of different abilities. When you complete a mission, instead of accepting the reward points, you can instead choose to unlock one of these abilities according to the point value and henchmen indicated on the mission card. Try this module out to bring new variety and individuality to the game. In conclusion, roll, move, influence, build, ascend. That's Merlin in a nutshell. Did you get all that?